right, what up, Fleeters? What's going on, guys? Trenches Fleet here, back at it again with another Bad Batch discussion. We're gonna keep it pretty brief today. I'm feeling slightly under the weather, and I'm joined today by GleppsGaming. Gleps, how we doing?
What's up? What's up, Fleeters? How y'all doing today? It's a pretty standard episode. We'll get into it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive into it. So, this one definitely gave us some pretty interesting reveals, starting to peel back the layers a little bit. I think the biggest thing is finally confirming Omega's who she is a clone of, and she is in fact a perfect genetic replica of Jango. So she's essentially Boba Fett's sister. So we were wrong there. I no longer think she's Force sensitive. I think we were wrong there. But pretty interesting to see why they want her so badly, and now why she's important. So what did you think about that, Gleps?
I'm honestly kind of surprised that we were wrong. I mean, although, on one hand, it's cool to have the Force involved. It's a bit refreshing to have a story where the Force isn't really involved as much. But I was happy to finally have that revealed. Although at this point I was getting a little bit tired of waiting, but I'm glad they finally have given us what that was.
Right, definitely. And yeah, it definitely makes sense. And it's a good point about, I think I'm someone who, my favorite stuff is always the Jedi, the Force stuff. So I definitely wanted to, I was definitely I think sort of projecting some of that into this show, but I think it's good to see that it's just kind of being its own thing as opposed to necessarily involving itself too much with the Force and all that stuff. They go to some abandoned cloning facility. I thought it was Cloud City at first, but it's not. It is some new planet, I guess, where the Kaminoans used to clone stuff. And we see some interesting tubes that look a lot like Snoke from episode 9. I thought it was Snoke. Looked into it a little bit. I guess it's not. It wasn't exactly Snoke, but I'm sure it's related to him in some way. So that was pretty interesting. So something interesting I had been seeing was that Cad Bane has a metallic, kind of part of his head, which means that his duel with Boba Fett already happened. So I don't know. Did you see anything about that, Gleps? What do you think about that for going forward?
I didn't see anything online about that, but that is definitely an interesting theory. The only thing that I have with that is that at this point, I know that, in the Clone Wars, it was supposed to happen in the Clone Wars, where Boba Fett was already, I guess Boba Fett was still pretty young. He was getting older towards the end, so I guess the timeline would line up. But it seems like Omega is still pretty young, and if Boba Fett was born at the same time as her, then it seems like it would have been a pretty young Boba Fett who was taking down Cad Bane.
That is very true. I mean, Boba's only 14, 15 in the Clone Wars, so that's pretty nuts.
So, yeah.
So I don't know. So Cad Bane's fate is definitely up for grabs. Something I think is interesting is Fennec Shand has been described as at this time a new up and coming bounty hunter. So it's really interesting to see her an up and comer up against Cad Bane, who at one point was considered the greatest bounty hunter, and he's clearly getting older. Starting to maybe get a little tired. So it's interesting to see them go up against each other. So yeah, just something we were talking about a little bit before, and Gleps, feel free to share how you're feeling. But we've just passed the halfway point for Bad Batch, and I was mentioning before that I feel for me it's getting a little bit kind of stale, a little bit boring almost. Not because it's not good. I think it's good, and I think honestly all of this is gonna pay off once we get to the finale. I think it's going to be really good. But at this point, how I'm feeling right now, I am obliged to be honest with you guys, you fleeters, about how I'm feeling towards this. I'm not quite as hyped, as I was necessarily before this show was coming out. And I don't think it's doing quite enough to keep us hooked. I was really excited because, when Omega got captured, I thought, man, we're going to have some real stakes going forward. And of course, they come and rescue her. So I feel there haven't yet to be, aside from Crosshair's betrayal, there have yet to be some like real long-lasting consequences or overarching story. Besides like who is Omega, they're getting hunted down. I'd really like to see things develop more. I'd also really like to see, Hunter, Tech, Echo, Wrecker. They have not really gotten as much development as I was hoping at this point, and there's still time. There's still time in the show. I'm not bashing the show or anything. Just being honest about how I'm feeling about it right now. But yeah, what do you think, Gleps? Overall, like, how is this experience, this Bad Batch experience, been for you so far? And what do you think going forward?
I totally agree with what you're saying about the character development. You're definitely right. Whereas, like, in the first couple episodes, we got to see the group sort of, coming into their role as dads. But since then, nothing's really changed. They haven't developed at all. They haven't really been given an opportunity to develop at all. But personally, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought we got a lot of very interesting things. We had learned that Fennec and Cad Bane are working for two different Kaminoans who have different interests for Omega.
Yeah.
And then we also got to see the fake Snoke tubes, which I assume are somehow related to Snoke, even though they are not Snoke specifically.
Yeah.
I mean, I think throughout the show, even one of the earlier theories we discussed when we assumed Omega was Force sensitive is that the Kaminoans are working towards a Force sensitive clone, and the Empire steals that research after they wipe them out towards the end of the show, is what we're predicting. But
yeah,
I still think that's a valid theory, that research is what's going to turn into first what we see in The Mandalorian, and then into Snoke in what we see in episode 9.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think there's a big possibility for some Mandalorian connections with Dr. Pershing, I think it is. And yeah, you bring up something I forgot to mention was the Kaminoans. We get to see Taun We, I think is her name, which is the lady that Obi-Wan talks to when he first arrives on Kamino in Attack of the Clones. So that was pretty cool. And then she just gets straight up shot by Fennec Shand, which I was like, oh dang, okay. So pretty interesting to see. Nala Se has a different vision for Omega than Lama Su. These Kaminoan names are so hard to remember. But yeah, it's interesting to see. It's like this subplot is something that's very interesting to me, and I hope what we will get more fleshed out is like the Kaminoans and the Empire. But now it's like there's conflict within the Kaminoans as well. So there's some beef building. I think it's gonna build up to a massive battle in the end, hopefully. So I mean, we'll see where this goes. Yeah. Any more thoughts to share with the Fleeter Nation, Gleps?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this episode. I mean, I enjoyed it. Personally, I agree that I'd like to see the story move a little bit further forward. I'm having a hard time seeing how this season is going to end based on what we've had so far. If there's going to be more, I just have a hard time seeing this coming to a satisfying ending within this season, at least. So, I don't know. Yeah. I'd like to see more story content rather than just Omega gets loose, causes mayhem, they rescue her.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, potentially there are some greater implications here for Book of Boba Fett. I mean, now that they name drop Boba, like he's pretty much gotta appear in this show at this point. They have all these bounty hunters, and now that him and Omega are basically brother and sister, it's like, yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that Boba will show up. And so now it's like, well, what's going to happen to Omega? Like, is she going to show up live action in Book of Boba Fett? That's a possibility. It'll be really interesting to see what path she ends up taking. Will she go the bounty hunter route? Will she, I don't know. Will she stick with the good guys? I don't really see the Bad Batch making it out of this alive, honestly. So anyways, a lot of possibilities for our characters here. So pretty interesting. I'm looking forward to seeing how they wrap up this season, but awesome. Well, Gleps, thank you for joining me today. And guys, hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to let me know what you thought down below, and I will catch you in the next video.